Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 51st live stream from the Misfit Gamer Studios and the first of 2024. I'm your host, Vortex, and this is D&D Discussions. On today's homebrew review, we have a follower-submitted item. It's actually a weapon that we're going to be reviewing today called the Shattered Symphony, submitted by Love Murder Rose. Thank you so much for that. I saw that you were in chat, so thank you so much for being here for our first stream of this year. It's fantastic. We are so excited. Everything seems to be working really well right now. I do have Kage in the studio with me, so we are going to dive right into this. We're going to kind of do the review first, get through everything, hopefully not tangent too much today off topic. And then afterwards, we're just going to kind of paint the picture of what to expect for 2024 and what we're going to be doing the rest of this year. And then that will be today's stream. So I hope you all enjoy it. Let's get going. Let me bring Kage in. How are you? Welcome back to 2024.
Dude, I am stoked, man. A new year. This is going to be a good times, and I'm glad we are starting it off strong. I love looking in the Discord and just seeing how much stuff we have stacked up for our future. Dude, our January is like set.
Oh yeah, we have. I think as of right now, we have at least 5 follower submitted items for homebrew review. So for the next, for January, for the next 5 weeks, we are set. I won't have to think of any like high lows or anything else like that to do. So that's really exciting. Hopefully you guys can continue to submit them through the Discord. It's really great to see so much activity there, guys. So keep that up. Yeah, and then for Fridays, we have a couple good solid ideas that we're going to be hashing out and bringing to the Friday stream. We still haven't decided exactly the title for Fridays yet. We still need to come up. That's going to be like a goal this year to come up with a Friday title.
I got you. Yeah.
I mean, I like D&D discussions. That's definitely good for over it. But it's like we have, homebrew review. It would be kind of nice to have something
to call it.
So
fun
we're gonna
times
get there
with Fridays.
But hey, thank you all. Thanks everybody in chat. We see that chat's kind of blown up a little bit before we started, so that's always great to see. Thank you guys so much. Man, it is so great to be back. It was actually so hard for me to not stream last week. It was Monday night and I was so ready to get into it. Excuse me.
No, that's a good time.
But yeah, Kage wasn't available. I wasn't fully 100% prepped with everything that I wanted to be. I did some changes around the studio, some minor changes, worked with, how we're doing the setup here. So I can be a little bit further away so you guys don't see my monitor all the time. I feel like that's going to improve the quality a little bit. Just did some behind the scenes stuff that we've been working towards for this year. So this year should be a lot cleaner. But we'll get into all of that afterwards. We want to definitely get into the review first.
Let's do it.
I forgot I have a mute button. I got to remember all my buttons.
That's facts.
But excellent. Welcome, everybody. So excited to see you all in chat. We are going to get right to it. We have a homebrew review weapon that was submitted by Love Murder Rose.
What was the name of it again?
Chat. It is the Symphonies, or the Shattered Symphony.
Shattered Symphony. That's right. This is going to be, especially because I remember the last submission from Love Murder Rose was phenomenal, so I'm very excited.
Actually, speaking of which, let's find out. I haven't looked at the doc in a minute. Where are we at? So starting here, we have 33 items, and the last time, I hate that this thing is never the right size. Last one we got from Love Murder Rose was Kintsugi's Resolve, which was the armor set. So today we are actually looking at another item from the same character. So this is Kintsugi's sword. It is a great sword from the same character.
Very nice.
So this will be really exciting to see.
Did we say Kintsugi was a paladin?
Let me. I forget. Let me actually look up because let's get
that's what it was.
Quick. If I can spell the name right. I know they posted a lot about their character. Love Murder Rose, if you're in the chat right now, can you provide us a quick update on Kintsugi, what the character background was real quick. That would be great before we get started, because I did forget exactly everything about the character at the moment.
I'm pretty confident they were Dragonborn.
I thought they posted in the Discord. Now I'm curious where.
It might have been in the stream.
You know what? We probably did talk about it on stream. I don't think they've discussed that here, which is a shame.
That's all right. We could find a spot for it.
No, they did post character art. They did. I remember.
Was that for? Is that first one?
Oh no, it was just we just got the armor, so we just got an image of the
armor.
armor.
Like the idea, the concept art for the
concept
armor.
art for the armor. We actually
I got you.
That's not information on Kintsugi. So that is unfortunate, but that's okay. We will get whenever Love Murder Rose comes back to chat, we will go ahead and get that character background. But let's go ahead and get this going. Where's my button for that? Hey, buttons are great.
Buttons are great.
All right, so let's get into today's homebrew review. It has been a while. Got to get that energy going. So let's get into this. And we're gonna, part of our thing is we're gonna tangent like we always do, but we're gonna try to stay on point of actually making
Focused
it a review-based tangent. All right, so for today, we have the Shattered Symphony, submitted by Love Murder Rose. This is a legendary greatsword, and it does require attunement, which is interesting because I can't remember if Kintsugi's Resolve required attunement, but I do believe that these, if this is following the same ideology as the armor set, these are now magical weapon and armor, because after the life of that character, after the character passed on, these items were imbued based off of their legendary actions, which I love that idea. That was actually why Kintsugi's Resolve actually went from a 8 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10.
That's right,
because
and that's why we were
extra point, because it started to inspire me to allow that to happen for my players, is allow them to leave behind something if their character actually dies.
That's
in gaming. Right. If they've done good enough, or if they died in a spectacular way, they can leave something behind. So I'm thinking that this is something along the same lines, where after that character died, this is the weapon, and it has now been imbued with special abilities. So this truly massive greatsword is made of a strange, smooth stone. The handle is ornamental, and the blade seems ancient, covered in small nicks and chips across the surface that glimmer with a faint golden hue. Okay, so excellent. Already tying into the
yes.
armor. Upon the handle, written in common, reads, "Long have I sung the Shattered Symphony, the sound of battle crashing like waves upon the shore. We sing this song so our children may sing a song of peace."
Clean, bro.
Oh, that's fucking clean. Oh, that's so good.
This is beautiful already. Okay.
Oh, I love a good quote, and that one is so good. I don't know if you got that from somewhere or if you made that up, but that is so nice for this. This weapon has a +3 to all attacks and damage rolls made with it, so it's a +3 greatsword, as far as I can tell from that. While on your turn, your attacks with this weapon have an additional 5 feet of range. That's interesting. Okay, we'll dissect that in a second. You cannot make attacks of opportunity with this weapon, as its mass and weight are hard to manage for even the strongest of fighters. Okay, and then it has 2 abilities. Okay, so now we can dissect it. Okay, this is part of the things we'll talk about. But okay, now we've gotten through this first section before we get to the powers. Love Murder Rose, thank you so much. Now that you're here, if you can type up a quick summary of Kintsugi for us, that would be great. We just wanted to get a quick refresher of who Kintsugi was and how these weapons came, or how these items came to be. So interesting. So it does have two abilities, but let's dissect this so far, because what we can determine is it requires attunement. Right now, though, we don't know who can attune to it. So we got to assume that it requires attunement from anyone.
Okay.
But it won't be able to be wielded. Anyone can wield it like a
Anybody
great sword.
that could wield a great sword can wield this great sword. It's just
these powers only come after you've attuned to it. So
okay.
So it's a +3. I like that. That's not too powerful. You do see a lot of +1s, +2s. I think +3 is. I mean,
what's the rarity of this weapon? It's legendary, right?
It's legendary.
So +3 is
I think it's
right up there.
Spot on. Okay, so I love that they've tied in the description as well as part of the limitations, right? So a truly massive greatsword made of a strong, smooth stone. So right off the bat, this is not a blade. This is not a sword. This is a pillar of rock shaped like a greatsword. So that right there, I love that, tied in with the fact that that understands the +3, but it also gives way to why you can't make opportunity attacks. And I'm assuming
I just love the idea of a stone sword. You're not going to be sitting here like sharpening this or anything like that. This is
and the fact that it's almost made out of stone ore, like gold ore infused stone, because it like all of the chips on the side show gold. So it's almost like So that's. Yeah, it's interesting that it doesn't.
We do have a quick description of Kintsugi if you want to.
Good. So Kintsugi was a warforged paladin of humanity who drew her power in her faith in the common man. She was covered in porcelain, and whenever she was damaged, she'd melt down her gold coins to repair herself. Right. Yes, and that's what led to the armor. That was the Warforged. Okay, so this Warforged is carrying, around a giant stone great axe. I already like it.
It's a great sword, right?
It's a legendary great sword, yeah. And I already like it because right out the gate, it has a great description. I love the quote and the lore behind it.
Oh yeah.
But the best part about this is it comes out strong with what I think is a relatively good balance, taking away the ability to do an opportunity attack, which is something at usually close range and is typically something that is
the fact that it has reach. So like when they move like just 5 feet away, that's still technically inside your reach, and
that's what I mean is having that balance of not being able to do that but giving it that 5 feet of reach, and I'm assuming again after attunement. So I'm not, I imagine it, you can imagine it in a lot of different ways of why that happens, but how I imagine it is it's so heavy that like by swinging it, you have to take a full step in order to not be knocked over. So you get the reach almost by stepping with it, and then you come back into your position because you're swinging it and going with the momentum, which pulls you backwards.
You ever play that old video game, Soul Calibur?
Oh yeah.
There are a couple of characters in there like Siegfried, Nightmare, and
you always had to worry about their posture because how they throw it. And that's what I imagine this is, that extra 5 feet isn't necessarily magical. It's imagine swinging this thing, going forward with momentum to hit them, and then as you swing back, you have to step backward back into your position. What would also be interesting too is you could even consider, adding like the 5 feet of, or like you could even consider splitting that up. Right? You can't take opportunity attack, but you can choose to do one of two things. On attack, you can either have 5 feet of reach, or on a successful hit, you can move 5 feet. Like you can basically move one square. Like it would roughly in the direction of attack, because it's like
right, because of the way you're stepping or the way you're moving.
So that would be kind of cool, is being able to move 5 feet after an attack or get 5 feet of reach for an attack. I think could be another alternative for that. But I like it. I like it coming strong out the gate. +3 great sword. I don't mind the reach. I think that works. And yeah, it being made out of stone and not having reaction, I think so far that's great. I think it's so great. And then oh yeah, okay, so yeah, that's where Kintsugi came from. And then the sword was literally so large that it had more range. Okay, so this one isn't so much that it has anything extra. It's literally just larger than your average great sword, which means it has range.
It's either that Berserker sword or that one from the dude in what's that? The anime Rurouni Kenshin. There's that one dude who's got bad on the back. Oh my!
Yeah,
that sword is so stupid but so dope.
Yeah. So no. Okay. So this one is basically so it's a legendary greatsword, but it's like essentially an extended greatsword. It's even
so
larger
crazy.
than a
That's
greatsword.
dope. That's very cool.
That's actually really cool. I do like.
Oh,
that.
think the Guts Dragons. That's what I was thinking of.
The guts. Oh yeah. Okay.
The Dragon Slayer sword. That massive. Oh, that's right. I swear.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. That's not bad.
Yeah, look at that boy.
Okay, so yeah, you're just looking at a much larger greatsword. Okay, I like that. Okay, cool. So as it stands right there, if it didn't even have anything else, I'm already liking it. It's already great. It's not your standard greatsword that has just a plus value. It has that extra ability of a reach. But it's not just reach because it's just, because it's powerful.
It's not reach just cause,
It's reach because of how it's built, and therefore it also has a downfall because of how it's built. I can't stress enough why, to me, that is so important to balancing, because it's one thing to balance it just saying, oh, it has a magical negative, or oh, it's cursed. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But to truly balance it out by having it physically give itself a perk and a negative at the same time isn't always easy to do, but I think is essential if you really want to build a well-layered item or a weapon, is doing something like that, because now whatever you do magically is just on top of an already well-built weapon. Then you don't have to worry as much about the fine-tuning of every little bit. You've already made
already feels
quite literally
like
and figuratively a well-balanced weapon.
Exactly.
But yeah. Let's see. I don't know if you remember correctly. The giant sword from 3.5 extended rules. It was one size larger than a great sword. I do remember a reference to like because you're talking.
I have never heard of that.
Yeah, I think it's a giant's sword. I think I'm assuming I'm going to assume that there was an apostrophe on that one. Meaning like it was the great sword
for giants.
Exactly, and
like,
so I think it could only be wielded by half giants or larger creatures. I think you had to be a large creature.
So you could be like a Goliath or something. Anybody who says like your size, you can carry a size larger.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think you actually had to have the specific ability to carry the weapon. So
or that belt of giant strength or whatever.
Or yeah, and I think that covered it too.
Got you.
Adventurology, let me know if we're on the same path and we're thinking the same thing. But I think that's the item where, you would have to have some sort of ability to wield it, which I think would be great, because imagine, okay, Love and Murder Rose. Throwing this out there again, just as a potential added verbiage here.
Like we haven't even got to the abilities yet.
I know, but in line with this, because of the idea of like the giant sword, if you also wanted to make this one of those situations where you can't just pick it up, wield it like a normal sword.
Right.
What if the attunement is the only way to wield it? Like, unless you have giant strength, unless you have the ability to wield that type of weapon, you have to attune it before you can pick it up, kind of almost like a Thor's hammer situation.
Interesting.
So only so even if you drop it in battle, unless it's somewhat like a giant or someone that has that much strength, no one in battle can go and pick it up.
That's crazy.
And even so, I would be curious to know if you would be interested in adding something like that, or just giving that idea to you as an option of adding verbiage that basically says you must have a X number of strength or a giant strength, if not attuned to wield it.
Attuned by someone with a strength of 20 or greater, perhaps.
You could do that. Yeah. So yeah, if you wanted to do that where literally only a super strong person can even attune with it, I do like that option. Yeah, it really depends on how you would do that, because you could split it and say you can wield it as long as you're attuned to it, or you have to have a 20 strength. Or you have to have a 20 strength. And
right.
Either one,
I
feel
that.
It depends on what limitations you want, because it would be kind of cool to have like a small person be able to attune to it and wield this thing. Granted, they can't
imagine
wield
you have
it
like a dwarf or something, just like freaking swinging one of these suckers. Or
they're not wielding it like a katana or anything.
Of course,
but the idea of
because still they said even the strongest of foes have a difficult time like slinging this thing around like it's nothing.
So it would be really interesting to play around with what the attunement means and what does it do. Right? Is the attunement what locks it to be able to be picked up? Does the attunement make it to where you don't have to have an absorbent of strength for it? You know what I mean? Like I'm just really curious, what the attunement would do, and maybe add some verbiage there.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my only kind of thing.
Bet. What else we got?
Yeah. Those are all great. 20, the 20 limit, perhaps also creatures at large size. Yeah, I'm not saying that it needs it. Like, again, as is, I'm happy. I think that to be slightly more understanding, though, and more adaptable to everybody, I would like to see something about why it needs to be attuned. Doesn't necessarily mean more restrictions, right? I'm not saying that, attuned by a paladin or attuned by this, but is it that you can't pick it up if you're not attuned? You don't get the +3 if you're not attuned. You can't use it as reach. If you know what I mean. Like,
it's
I just
possible
want a
that
definitive.
Some of the abilities might
say that. Yes.
Might speak to what that answer might be. We'll say like that.
And that's just why, in initial description, if it says why, you have to attune. If it's not like a limit of who can attune to it, I just would like personally to see a little bit more of, well, what is the attunement doing? It's what locks the +3? Because that could just be it too. Just attunement unlocks the magical powers, right? So it's just a sword with reach, but if you attune to it, then you get the +3 or whatever. But again, it's not necessary. I think it would just make it a little bit clearer. Mm-hmm. But you're right. We do need to get to the powers in order to kind of fully flesh that out. So power number 1, it has a command word of shatter. Okay. So already, I know we're not supposed to do this, but I'm going to slip this in just because it is a direct comment of the name. Mm-hmm. It immediately gives me Bankai vibes. Mm-hmm. Instant going to Bleach. Yep. And because they all have a command word, they all have that whole, remember that, I think that one dude is Shatter, right? The one guy.
With his,
the Rose guy, right? Isn't his one where he goes Shatter? Doesn't he say Shatter? And the main guy, the top guy, Ryuka's older brother.
Oh,
He's the main dude with the streak of white in his hair, like the one that everyone's afraid of.
Yes.
His command word, I just remember. Isn't it Chigi? Isn't it Chigi in Japanese? I might be butchering that.
I'll see if I can look it up.
The translation of his Bankai is Shatter, and that's when it goes in all the rose petals and just annihilates his enemies. But yeah, so I'm just thinking of, that's what it makes me think of when you have command words like this, and this weapon so far, I'm just getting like Bleach Bankai vibes. And then Murderos says, if you say that you're not, they would say that if you're not attuned, you can't wield it as a +3, no matter the number of attacks and normally make. You can only make 1 attack per round.
So if you're a fighter and you're wielding this thing and you got 4 attacks per turn, you can only swing this sucker once,
and you're not getting the +3.
Yeah.
See, that right there, even just throwing that little blurb in there of attunement grants the +3 and the amount of attacks you would normally get. Otherwise, it's 1 attack per round. That would make it so much more clear. Again, it's not like it's missing anything, but I think that would be great to add that. Shatter is also a spell. That's also a good point, Cosmic. Shatter is also a spell. So yeah, I wasn't really thinking of that being able to do that. But okay, so command word Shatter. As a bonus action, you can oh wow, I can speak. Let's restart that. Command word Shatter. As a bonus action, you can speak the command word Shatter. When you do, the weapon's strange stone casing. I was going to say casting. When you do, the weapon's strange stone casing explodes outwards in streaks of molten gold. Every creature within a 20-foot circle must make a DC 17 dexterity save or take 1d8 radiant damage and 1d6 piercing damage and half as much on a successful save.
I would ask if that's radius or diameter, that 20-foot.
20-foot circle. It sounds, yeah. You would think radius, but it says 20-foot circle, so it could mean diameter. Love Murder Rose, could you confirm that in the chat? After this command word has been spoken, the sword is no longer a +3 greatsword, but instead a +1 longsword. This weapon also loses its 5 feet reach and gains the ability to take attacks of its opportunity. So it just swaps that out.
Right.
Once it has been used, you cannot use this command word until you've taken a long rest. So for the rest of the day, it's a longsword.
A +1 longsword.
And then it will reshape itself into that's interesting. Radius would be 40 feet to her. So
got it.
Yeah. So
20 feet from her centered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Upgrade Shatter. It seems Shatter is a 10-foot radius spell. Think that the piercing damage should be bludgeoning. Gold is a heavy metal. Even as a liquid, bludgeoning seems more fitting. So I was going to make a comment about that as well. So I don't dislike the 20-foot. I think that makes a lot of sense. The DC 17, is it just me or does that seem a little high?
So with a legendary weapon, especially with what's going on, what kind of save is it again?
DC 17 dexterity.
I don't think
is 17 good?
I think a 17 is good for a legendary sword for sure.
And then 1d8 radiant damage. I don't like. I understand it's coming from I understand the idea of radiant damage. My first thought is that there's nothing about this that makes it seem holy or magical in the sense of the description. I feel like if the idea is molten gold, I would assume that would be fire damage. The idea of heat burning damage. With that, you also get it. It can burn through metal, so you could say that it permanently damages armor, permanently damages weapons that it hits. I would say that it would be better to do that than radiant, just because radiant I think would also make it feel too situational, like you're trying to use it for a very specific type of a weakness.
Whereas, solve this person's weak to radiant or something like that.
Like even with molten gold, you can even the idea of if it's heat damage or fire damage, you can even add the idea that depending on the situation, you can even have the surrounding area light on fire. So I would say personally, I think I would lean more towards fire damage than radiant damage on that one. Now
I'd even be willing to add like you said, continuous damage. Like if I hit him,
if it hits,
maybe like for 1d4 rounds, it'll do X amount of damage or something like that.
Yeah. And since it's molten, you can say like if it hits armor, that armor loses. Oh, so I mean, I don't know how. Okay, you can get super complicated. You can say if it hits armor, it loses 1 AC, permanently. If it's metal armor, if it hits skin, it's like, it does for so many rounds. Because you could say that because they're not catching on fire, but you could say that they depend on how much you think they get hit by. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to say, but I don't know if you want to complicate it. But I do think fire damage makes more sense because you can also use that situationally.
Yeah.
Like environmentally.
Yeah.
Now it does say, so 1d8 radiant, I still think works. 1d8 fire damage, I still think works. Now 2d6 piercing damage. Cosmic made a good point about this being like a chunk of heavy metal coming at you. He says bludgeoning, and I'm thinking I get the idea of piercing because it's molten, that's going to go through your skin, but I still look at that as I do think the idea of a hot metal slug hitting you.
But remember, I don't think this is going to be the metal. I think this is the stone exterior. So the description was like there's this stone exterior that's around it, which is why it's a lot bigger, which is why it's got the reach. The
stone casing explodes outwards in streaks of molten gold.
Yes. So so the metal is the gold.
Yeah. So I kind of understand that even that with your description and your add-on, I'm kind of leaning with Cosmic on the idea that bludgeoning would make more sense. Because again, it really wouldn't pierce through armor; it would melt armor. So it's like it could say that it would make them more vulnerable, but I don't know if piercing is the exact way to go about it. But it's more semantical.
It really is. Like I could see an argument for either.
There's no mark for or against it. I just think that that's a purely
if you're thinking
approach.
Purely synergistically, okay.
Yeah. But I think so. A 1d8 and a 2d6 though. That's regardless of the type of damage, 1d8 and a 2d6. I'm trying to make sure. I think a 1d8 works because normally isn't fire damage like a 1d4.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of d6 stuff. Fireballs,
so
d6s.
I think a 1d8 of one type of damage, and then a 2d6. I think fills the gap of what this is really supposed to do.
I was honestly going to say, I think this damage is very underpowered for a legendary weapon.
Yeah.
I think that it's a one-time event. You're not going to use it again for a long rest. It's not like I'm going to spam the heck out of it.
That is
Why
true.
not just make it a freaking explode? It's got a pretty decent range on it. right? Like, why not? Like, I honestly think, especially if we're talking molten pieces, I'm thinking I would want to do more fire damage than I would, physical damage. So if we're going to go with fire and bludgeoning, like, I'd probably say something like 3 or 4d6 fire damage.
Yeah.
And then
So
something
we have more insight too. So Murder Rose says that the idea is that the stone casing explodes into fragments. So that's where the piercing comes from. So they're sharp fragments.
Like shards.
And
okay.
the idea of the molten gold, because it's only flecks on the side, it just makes like streaks through the air. So it's exploding with molten gold, like streaking, but it's more about piercing fragments of stone flying through the air.
Got it.
So with that,
okay.
So with that description, Cosmic says that you and him are on the same wavelength. Apparently, you and he are thinking the exact same thing.
Oh, as far as the damage,
and then inventorology. What character level does the creator plan this item? That's a good question. Let me get to that in just. Let me ask that one in just a second here. If she doesn't get to it in chat first. So I still think that with her idea, with what she just said about how it's supposed to explode, I'm okay with piercing damage. I'm 100% down with piercing damage. I still think radiant should be fire because I still think the molten would be a better use of it personally. But that's just semantical. That's just description and semantical. And I'm on the same wavelength as you in terms of I feel like, yes, it could be more powerful. It could do more damage. But now I'm thinking that, and this leads me to a better, this solidifies it for me. So there was a good question in chat from Inventorology. What character level was Murder Rose expecting this to be at? And she's saying that most characters don't get a +3 until level 15 or higher. So my thinking was, why not? Yeah, because it does seem pretty low. So if that's the base damage, why not then allow for a modifier based off of level?
Interesting.
So this is
I could see that.
So maybe it's this damage for every 5 levels. So 1 through 5 is the 1d8 2d6.
Interesting.
Level 5 through 10.
So if somehow magically a level 1 got a hold of it or something like that. Okay.
Or like if you de-leveled somehow, like if someone was able to de-level you through magical means, but then that means like at level 15 to 20 would get a 3d6 and a 6d6. So at level 15 you're now doing 60. That's right up and then you go to level 20. Now you're 48.
Yep.
And 8d6. So it's leveling up with you every 5 levels.
And
I think
personally, I love weapons that level up with you because scaling is so hard whenever I got this great weapon and now I'm more powerful. Now it feels like a twig.
And what you could do too is if you really wanted to do that, you could keep the radiant damage and then explain the radiant damage as what's coming from the wielder. And that's why it's more powerful every time you level up.
Got you.
Different ways of explaining it. So so Murder Rose says, okay, so 15 plus is mint. So Inventorology says that a level 15 or more is good for that level of this type. The Peppa, hey, how's it going? Good to see you in chat. Thank you so much for
Happy
joining.
New Year. Excellent.
And from Germany, I forgot. Yay.
That's pretty awesome.
That is so fucking cool.
I love
it. So dope. It's good to have you here. Thank you so much. And then Murdero says that a D8, the damage type to be determined, and 2d6 plus strength modifier. Good compromise. I think the strength modifier isn't enough, to be completely honest. Like, I would say I like the damage type as a base, but I would maybe personally do something like every 5 levels. For every 5 levels, it just goes up by 1 die, or double. Maybe not doubles, but depending on what you want to do with that. The strength modifier I don't think would be necessary though, because you're not applying your strength to the ability, right? Like the strength modifier at least doesn't make much sense, just because it's shattering, right? You're not really putting any ability behind that. But that's just me. I'm really weird when it comes to certain modifiers,
right?
Because I don't like applying modifiers that to me don't directly influence what's happening.
And I would say, depending upon how the mechanics of their world work, if you require my strength to activate this ability, or like, you know, a part of like what I'm doing is, you know, when I shout shatter, it is me, like it is a part of my essence or whatever the case may be, you know, and I'm using my strength to push that forward. Something, there could be some explanation, you know, depending on how everything goes.
So
but
what we're saying
I
is
do get
it's
that.
a great ability. It's a great command word, and it does amazing things. And that's all fantastic. I think it's just a little underpowered. I think that's all we're saying is it's a little underpowered.
Make it hurt him more.
And then and then it's also +3, so all the +3 goes onto that too, right?
Right.
So we do gotta
because that is attack and damage rolls.
Yeah, and then again, the fact that it changes into a longsword, loses its reach, but also gains its attack of opportunity. I'm so down for that. Like, I am so down for that.
So at 17th level, a cantrip can do 4d10 damage.
Yeah, so
at 11th level, it can do 3d10. And that's a free, no spell slot required, like pew pew. Like, that's the scaling that you get.
Yeah.
And so, like, if I'm thinking, like, if I want to be of help in this fight and I want to do some damage, am I better off doing a cantrip?
I mean, and that's fair, because I mean, we're talking about this max, right? As it stands, the max is what, 12 or 20 damage? Like, that
if you max out on all your damage.
If you max out the damage on this, you're looking at 20 damage. So
I mean, some like melee hits can do more than that.
Yeah. So I think that it's a great item. I think because it's meant for such later game, I think that's why it's underpowered. I think it's beautifully written. I think it actually
the power, the ability, what it does is
I mean, I think this would work as written. I think it would work as a 5th level weapon. If you could find this at 5th or 6th level, I think this as written would be so clutch but not overpowered. I think it would just be the weapon you want in the game, you want in the crew.
Now,
but I think
who
that
knows
15th level,
what the other ability does, if that like skyrockets it to something else, that we might be But
and that's the thing too, is like, you know, I mean, no, well, in Ventrology, understand that I'm just looking at it from the point of view of not necessarily the +3, but just the idea of the great sword with reach and the ability to do this kind of damage with a power-up ability. Just that so far, I could see this being a lower level. Because again, at the max,
if it was a +1,
this special ability does 20 damage. Now, I'm looking at it from the point of view of, based on the level, thinking about what type of enemies you'd be up against. Most enemies towards, you know, anywhere from level 5 to level 10 that you would be facing, that's not even going to be half their life. You know what I mean? Like the higher level enemies. And now granted, like lower level, like, you know, whatever you're fighting, that could probably like wipe a whole like thing. But like a boss battle, like that's not even going to take, you know, that might maybe be a quarter of their life, which is what you want at lower levels. But like at a 15th level, that's barely going to scratch them. You know what I mean? Like there are some standard attacks that could breach 20 damage. And because
there are some minions at higher levels, when you start getting to like 10 and 11 and 12, there's some minions of bosses that can withstand that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So that's all I'm saying is I would just think that, you know, not being so magical, but just looking at the damage numbers, I would be comfortable with this under 10th level. But that's where I'm trying to use that as a justification for why I think that in a later fight at 15th level, I would like to think that if I'm using a once a day, you know, once a long rest ability, I would like to think it, you know, 20 damage is what I should expect average, not what I can hope best for.
And I think so. Love Murder Rose makes a good point. There comes a point where if you try to get too number crunchy with your stuff, like it becomes hard. When I'm looking at stuff, I try to just imagine myself as the player using it, or even as a character using it, and I just look at how beneficial is this really going to be? How often am I going to feel like this is valuable?
And he makes another good point too. He says that you know, it is 20 damage max as a bonus action on top of, you know, an attack you can already make.
Yes.
Which is fair. I just, because it's only the once a day though, I don't think that saying that, well, because it's a bonus action, I think, yeah, but it's also only once a day. So I'm, because it's a command word, you're activating it by saying a word. I think that the idea of it being a bonus action doesn't mean that it's super powerful as a bonus action. I think that just gives credit to the idea that it's more versatile in combat because it only takes a single word, a single expression in the middle of your action in order to do this additional thing. And again, I know that's very semantical, and it just really depends on how you kind of look at the order of operations in combat. But it's a good point. The fact that it is a bonus action, I think might later down the road cause our argument for more damage to start to fall apart, because at a level 15, at a level 20 battle, if you're doing 4d8 plus 6d6 damage as a bonus action, yeah, that could be really considered an OP move. And at that level, you might want to say, well, why isn't that an action then? As an action, I should be able to do this, because most magical weapons that do something like this would be an action.
And that's fair.
So I fully can back and understand that argument.
And that is a action economy is huge for a lot of that stuff.
And yeah, so that's where it's that hard line, and that's where the really hard line of balancing comes down. I can see the argument that as a bonus action, it's already doing a lot, but scaling up later down the road, it becomes less useful, and I would find more reasons to drop the weapon if it didn't scale later down the road. But I can also say that you're right. Later down the road, the argument for a bonus action becomes less balancy.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you balance it? Like, do you just make it an action from the get-go? Or do you always let it be
low damage? I like a lot of different options. Like, there are a lot of options for monsters where they get to like roll a d6, and on a 5 or a 6 they get the ability back. But if you don't roll a 5 or 6, you don't. Right? Yeah. I like sometimes just turn-based cooldowns. Like, I don't think cooldowns are used nearly enough in weapons where it's just like, hey,
you encased in stone, you could also say that because a bonus action makes it too powerful, you could balance that out by saying it takes longer than a day to recoup all of the stone and let it reform itself, right? So maybe more than a long rest. Maybe it's a time frame.
I mean, I like the time frame. I was going to say a little bit less than a long rest, so that you can use it more than once a day. Just so that
if you're keeping the damage low, maybe more than once a day.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But if you're expending the damage, yeah. There's so many different directions. Again, I really like it. I don't think it's wrong. I just think that there's a lot of actually, it's not wrong. I think it's really good that there's a lot of different ways you can balance it, because that's what makes a good idea. A good idea allows people to take it and do different things with it. A good idea can also be that everyone sees what it's for and then uses it the same way. But I think a good creative idea, something like this to share with people, it's better when someone can look at it and take it somewhere else, because then it fosters more creativity. So yeah, this is a really good example of that, because there's a lot of different ways that you can balance it. I think that if it's intended for such a high level, as a bonus
this will
action,
be a question for
I
after.
Still think it's too little damage even for a bonus action if you're planning to not see this until level 15 to 20. Because to be completely honest, I just don't think it does enough on its own to be justified being carried around for the potential 20 damage on a bonus action once during combat.
Well, again, I still want to see what else it has to do, because who knows what else is there. There could be a whole lot more that plays a lot into what you can carry around and what it can do while it is a +1 longsword.
And then what do we got here? So Cosmic says, since Shatter is a bonus action command word and it's tied to the saving throw and it has some AoE, it can't crit. That's fair. So yeah, can't necessarily crit, but if you just roll max damage is what I think we were saying. In Venturology, once a day. Oh, he missed the part where it's once during a long rest. So with that, he says that he could see it being a little bit lower, possibly down to level 5 to 10. Which again, I think that's where I was going.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you have to do the long rest. It's not something that you could do. But I think with you, what you were saying, maybe a short rest or something. I don't know.
He was saying maybe once per battle.
Yeah, once per battle, once per encounter, something like that, because then you can just like stick it in the mud and then
4th edition encounter powers.
Yeah. Okay, but let's see, because we still have another command word, and this other command word may change its what we think of so far. So now we have the command word of hope. You can only use this command word Well, let me restart that one. Command word hope. You can only use this command word while this weapon is a +1 longsword. So this one can only be used after you've used shatter.
Got it. So
Interesting.
I'm guessing you can't use shatter while it's a +1 longsword. So they're opposite. You can only use shatter while it's a
greatsword.
Greatsword.
Yeah, so it's a step down. Yeah, so,
Yep.
so yes.
Okay,
you have
bet.
to go from the greatsword to the longsword first.
Each phase has its
And
own ability.
Until you do the long rest, you can use this one as well. So, as a bonus action, you can speak the command word hope. When you do, a number of creatures of your choice within 20 feet of you must make a DC 17 strength check, or make a DC 17 strength save as a great gale gathers around the shattered blade, pulling in any rocks, metals, and minerals to reforge it. On a failure, the creatures are pulled 10 feet closer to you and are knocked prone. On a save, the creature is not pulled and is not knocked prone. After using this command word, the Shattered Symphony regains the... So, in addition, attacks with this weapon deal an additional 1d8 of radiant damage. Wait, in addition, your attacks with this weapon deal until the end of your next turn as reformed blade glows with molten golden light. Once this command word has been used, it cannot be used again until you've completed a long rest. Interesting. So that's interesting.
So it'll you can end the day with it as the greatsword,
but you can't just sit there and go boom 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 boom. You can't just sit there and shatter it.
You can't ping pong it back and forth. It's still a once a day.
But if you like it more as a greatsword, you don't have to wait until your long rest to use your greatsword again. You just can't use shatter again.
Now the question is,
that's interesting.
So, can you read where it talks about it regathering up? It gathers. Where's that sentence?
Okay, so they make a save.
No, before that, which says when you do any.
So when you do, when you make the command word, any number of creatures of your choice within 20 feet of you, make the DC strength save, because you're basically reforming all of the shattered pieces that were 20 feet out. Now you're reforming them back.
So the question I have with that is, do I have to gather the pieces if I don't use the hope command word in the same battle that I use the shatter command word?
I think it's going to take any amount of rock matter around you. So if you're not in the center of where you did the shatter spell and now you're over here, it's just going to take the 20 feet of rock matter
so
around
if I'm in a completely different building, if I'm in a completely different arena,
it's going to take whatever's near you.
Whatever's near.
I don't think it's reforming the pieces before.
It's just using,
because it's saying that it pulling in any rocks, metals, and minerals to reforge it.
That's what I thought.
Anything that's available.
Okay.
So I would imagine you could, as a DM, rephrase that to it's any rocks, metals, and minerals in the area. If you're in a bar, all of the cutlery, the silverware, the tankards, you could just be like, hope, and then just literally take the bar's worth of like their tankards and be like, thanks guys. And just be like the bar's being a dick to you, and you just be on your way out, be like, oh yeah, by the way, hope, and then just take like half their dishware and be like, I'm out of here. Can you imagine? Oh my god!
Hilarious.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Evil idea! Evil idea! I run evil characters usually. You shatter it outside of town. You walk in town. You go into a bank. And then you rehope. You could just go into a horde and then just use all of that to like you would have to expand the idea of what that
I wonder if
does.
you were in like a dragon's horde and you called
that in a palace.
If you were in like a dragon's horde and you called that, and like, would it take like the metals? Because there's technically
that's what
like,
I'm saying.
like gold
could,
and like.
But that's what I mean is like you could be so evil with this, like.
That would be crazy.
Like, imagine you walk into a place that I don't know. There's so many evil ways that you can do this.
I love that. I like that.
Okay, so Murderer says that they left that stuff up to the player's ideas and the DM discretion. It's definitely intended.
Bet. I absolutely love that. I think that's my favorite part, where you can just use your creative. Imagine if you just set it up and you walk into a place. I got my little long sword and everything. I'm just sitting here chilling. And then you come out and you're like, hope. And then now you got a +3 greatsword that you can just freaking smack the... bro.
Dude, check this out. So you're in battle with a boss, right? Like a BBEG level. You do the shatter spell halfway through battle. Because if you have a DM that will work with you, you get into a situation where you're like, hey, on my next attack, like, you know how there's like non-lethal and lethal, right? Like I can make the decision. Can I make this attack with the intention of locking blades? So I can talk to him. Like, can I just like do that whole thing where I get right into his face, like with my action, like instead of attacking, like do a lock, and then just to be like, yeah, what are you gonna say to him? But like, if you only had hope, and then you watch his blade disintegrate into yours. And he stands there with nothing but a wooden hilt. And you stand there with the blade now just right on his... Like, I would... Like, imagine that, though. If you're blocking blades, it's going to pull the nearest stuff, right? Imagine you're doing that. You're locking him, and it pulls part of his armor. Like, now he drops an AC because you pull his armor, you pull his weapon off of him. And now he's, like... There's so many good ways that you and the DM could work with this.
Dude, you could do so many sick things.
Okay, so with that being said...
okay.
Creator note. Dropped weapons are metal too. Battlemaster, fighter, disarming, attack, bonus action, hope.
Okay, so real quick. When I take a long rest, can I take a long rest while it is in longsword form and wake up with it in longsword form? Meaning, can I carry around a longsword with me? And
I think the reason why she wrote it this way is because you have to use it after Shatter, but they're both reset on a long rest is for that reason alone. Is so you can be a longsword, still use Shatter, and then still use Hope. If you
so if I wanted to start off...
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Is Shatter or use Hope first and then Shatter again.
Yes.
I think that's why it's intended for them both to be reset that way, so you can use them in any combination of any order.
Because if you can do that, then again, you can walk into like a fight, an arena, like maybe like they think you're a light fighter, you know, you're literally just a fighter, you know, and they pit you up against somebody who's kind of like a light fighter, and then you just, nah, bro, like, so many crazy different creative, like, ways to just be secretive about how you play. Imagine you're like a barbarian fighter combo, right? And you want to just, like, when you rage, you use the freaking great sword, but when you're just doing your regular fighter stuff, you do longsword because you want to be more dexterous or whatever the case may be. Just all different kinds of like ideas of how to play with this weapon and different characters. It's way cool.
Question: does that also count? All right, so. I also like to use a sword and board, then switch to Oh yeah, so her intention is also you can like hold a shield and use it with a shield, and then drop the shield to go double-handed with it.
Got you. So does that mean the greatsword version has to be double-handed? Because traditionally that's the case.
Yeah, it would be definitely double-handed.
Interesting.
There's no, I don't think you'd be able to get around wielding that single-handed, especially because it has the reach and the extra weight. There's no way you're doing that one-handed. So yeah, so with this new piece in mind, I still think Shatter could deserve some more damage. Mm-hmm. I still think that with this it could deserve more damage.
Do you think Hope should do any damage? Because right now it doesn't.
I literally was just about to say I'm torn with whether or not I should add damage to Hope, because I love the idea that it knocks them prone. Because imagine knocking them prone and now they're prone in front of you with a fucking stone grate. So like, I love that idea, but you are reforming the molten pieces. So
I feel like it wouldn't be as forceful.
Yeah, it would just be more of like, you know, like burn damage if it hits them. Like if they succeed, they're blown down, and if they fail, they take damage. Like they're still standing up, but then they're getting hit by.
The maybe they'll just get some like the D4 of like fire damage. Is it like? I like that they didn't initially do damage though. I really like that she went the route of I have a damage one, and then I have this other kind of like, you know, crowd control other option, right? So I kind of want to lean into that, right? I like the idea that because if you think about it too, right, it's forming everything, but it's coming from the ground up, so it would trip them before it would actually impale them. If you really think about it, it would like move
up at
Yeah.
them, it's less likely to do damage at the back of your legs than it is to knock you on your ass.
How far does it pull them?
10 feet. Yeah, 10 feet if they fail.
Okay.
So I kind of like, I could see it, right? Like you could have the narration make more sense. Because again, it's not like a sphere of things coming in all directions. It's coming from the ground to the sword. So I kind of like the idea of a crowd control versus the damage with
And
the
I'm
shatter.
guessing this pull counts as forced movement, so it's not going to be proccing attacks of opportunity
Correct.
from other.
Yeah, it would be forced movement.
Okay.
And they go prone, which I think is clutch.
It's very clutch, especially an AoE that's going to knock folks prone
And all around you.
and bring them closer to you, so you can just start smacking away.
Yeah. Oh man, you have the feat, the cleave feat, where you can hit multiple enemies at once. Dude, this thing would be devastating.
Disgusting.
Actually, yeah, I could see a better justification for not having Hope have damage. I kind of like it being more crowd control.
Yeah.
I still think there's a justification to having more damage put on Shatter, especially because it's once per long rest. I really think that if we're keeping both of these on a long rest, which now I think a long rest per day is actually really solid for these. I don't think you need to shorten or extend that, but I do think that because you already intended it to be a level 15 weapon, if I'm a level 15 person, as fun and unique as this weapon would be, if I'm picking it up at level 15, 16, 17, 18, I don't know if at face value, even as a bonus action, it would do me any better than another +3 that, where I, instead of using that bonus action, I could, use like a magical item or something, or an amulet. Like I feel like if you don't have this early on, and I don't mean like level 1, but I feel like if you don't come across this closer to level 10, I just feel like Shatter could be more impactful in battle.
Yeah. And this is probably going to be a subject for another day, but I really think weapons in 5th edition in general, even just regular mundane weapons, they need to scale with your level like cantrips do.
Ooh,
because
yeah.
being a level 20 anything and picking up a sword that does 1d something, that's crazy to me.
I personally, and this is one of the things that we should talk about. Can you make that note in the stream notes right now? I want to talk about this too, because there's a very specific reason why I do the weapon proficiencies from 2nd edition over, hey, you have this category of weapon that you're allowed to use in any of these weapons, right? Because the idea of why is it that at level 1 you start off with a 1d4 dagger and you're eventually going to drop it for a much higher, damaging weapon, and you'll never have to worry about a dagger again, because who wants to do 1d4 damage? Whereas for me, I like the idea of weapon proficiencies not giving you more attacks per round and more damage per round for the individual weapons you specialize in, because that idea of, I've held this for so long, I should be able to do more damage than the person who picked it up day 1. And I really, that's what I like to do. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how to go about fixing that. Murder Rose also says the weapon is meant for versatility and creativity. Also, another note, the range is 20 feet and pulls them 10 feet closer. If they fail, they are prone and instantly in your new range of the great sword.
So those exactly what you were talking about.
And then you wouldn't get an attack of opportunity because it is the sword's reforms. So yeah, I would say that if
just as clarification, I was talking about other people getting attack of opportunity, not the sword wielder getting an attack of opportunity.
In
but
general.
yes, that's very true.
What was I also gonna say? So I think I also like here at the end, once you've used Hope for the next round, you get an extra 1d8 of damage on your normal attack, so you get to add a whole extra
for
D8.
a round.
Yeah, because it's still molten. I still think that should be heat and not molten. Oh, I figured out what I wanted to say though. So I do agree that it should get the extra D8. I still think heat damage and fire damage, but we were talking about when it reforms, right? And it might knock them prone, but it doesn't do damage. Shatter. I think I figured out a good idea that we can make Shatter possibly a little bit more versatile later in combat. For the later ones, is what if the damage scale is based on the armor you're against? So if it's metal armor, it's as posted. But if it's like hide or cloth armor, it's doubled. So if the enemy has non-metal armor, the fact that these metal fragments are flying, at them, maybe do more damage against someone who's. I mean,
Interesting.
because again, we have the AC, which is going to block some of it. But I'm trying to think, how do you make it more damaging at later levels? You could say that it's also just does double damage against non-metal armor. So anybody who even has chainmail is not full metal. Like basically, you could have a metal, an armor tier that it does extra against. So if you're against a wizard, like an evil wizard, that it's going to do way more damage against them than evil paladin or something.
Right.
I'm just trying to think of a way to give it slightly more damage for a long rest. Because again, in battle, you're only going to get to use both of these once. And whichever direction you use them in, again, if you have the short, the longsword first, being able to knock them prone is great. Being able to do a shatter spell is great. 20 damage. And we also got to remember,
that's 20 max.
Per. It's 20 max, and it's also per creature.
That's true.
That's another thing we haven't really mentioned over and over yet is it's 20 damage per creature. So I'm saying it feels like not a lot of damage when I'm thinking I'm going up against like a BBEG fight, and I have one or two major opponents, and 20 damage is basically what I can throw at them in a critical hit, right? Like, if that's all I'm doing at best, I'm rarely going to use Shatter because I'm losing my +3.
Yes.
In battle, that's because we've always talked about like action economy and how to balance out combat. If I'm in battle and I got this great sword that has reach, I'm up against an enemy and I'm getting a +3 to hit, +3 damage. For the chance to do 20 points of damage, I'm going to drop down to a +1.
And you're going to lose your reach.
And I'm going to lose my reach. Unless the situation calls for the fact that I'm missing out on opportunity attacks, I don't feel like that 20 points of damage one time. Now, granted, I could revert that real quick.
Yes.
And get my +3 back. And in that moment, it's a one-time deal. I can still go back to get, my sword back and my +3 back. But I lost essentially a round with it, because then I had to redo it. And then I still get the extra plus, the +1d8 for one more whole round. So there's some strategic uses. There's some tactical ways that it could be used. But in the end, if I'm throwing damage, I don't know. What is the base damage of this? I don't even think we have a base damage, right? So yeah,
I'm thinking it's going to be standard greatsword base damage.
Right, and I wonder if you would add to that because it's, a bigger than a greatsword, right? So,
yeah,
so
perhaps.
That's the other thing too, is it really just comes down to action economy wise. Would it be beneficial for me to do this in battle unless it's closer to the kill shot? You know what I mean? Like, is there a strategic time to use this with this level of damage? And I think that's why I'm thinking it's too low, because the other argument is the start of the battle. There's 20 enemies on the field. You jump into the middle of them and go 20 damage to 10 of you. Half of you are dead. That's clutch for a bonus action. But it's only clearing out the minions, right? At level 15, being able to kill someone with that kind of a shot, that's a minion at that best.
So two things.
Now it's more of now you've saved some time.
One for me is, if I'm looking at this compared to something like a fireball.
Yep.
Okay. If I'm just casting a regular fireball, if I can cast that 3rd level spell, something I can do at level 5 in this game, is that, again, a lot more than what I'm going to be able to do here at level 15. Would I be better off saying, hey, cast fireball here than me doing this?
Yeah.
It's going to be fire damage, maybe some other type of damage, whatever the case may be. Is like, am I going to be better off doing something else, using my economy for something else and maintaining this here? I did have an idea that I thought might make it a little bit, give it a little bit more versatility, is give it the ability to, like, over a short rest, do a little ritual over it or something to change its state without using either of its abilities, right? Say I want to,
instead of having to plan it for the end of the day, you shatter, then do a long rest, you have both spells back.
So say I have both spells on this day, right? And I'm going into a situation and I want to use one of them. one of the abilities, but I don't want to use the other one. Say I wanted to use the short sword.
So
Say I wanted to use hope.
I would say that it should just have an additional ability that once per day it can change between forms freely. Like it just shifts forms, right? Just once per day for free, you can just decide, hey, now be
you can shift it form.
The abilities activated,
and that's fair too. Like
I think that, because I think that's a truly good thing, because like you were saying, to really make this versatile, you have to actually use the command word in order to change it. But now that is also one of the limitations, though. That is one of the balancing limitations.
And that could be, and that's
require the command word.
Is that balancing aspect, enough to hold on to? Is that adding enough that makes it like valuable?
That's why I'm thinking, like, if you got this earlier, you'd bond with it more. Because again, and we need to have that episode. That maybe should be next Friday. I had an idea for Friday. Maybe this should be this Friday's episode. Talking about
weapon scaling.
Weapon scaling, because the thing with me is, if you're thinking about it, I like building relationships with weapons. Like I like the idea of going through a couple and then finding one that's like, no, my character's holding on to this one. It's special for XYZ reason, right? Or when you find a very powerful magical weapon, it's like, man, this is basically like my weapon for a while. And I want to have that feeling, right? I don't prefer personally games where you're swapping weapons every fight. Like the moment you find a more powerful weapon that you can wield, why am I doing a short sword when now I have a great sword that I can also wield because my character class and it does more damage, right? That's not, to me, that's not how a character would act, just because they can wield it. What about the fact that that's not your, like, just because you made a pirate character, just because he can wield a great sword, why would he? He would wield a cutlass, he would wield a rapier. It's more in line with their character to do this, but build-wise, those weapons are less damage, so why would I wield them, right? I don't like that. I like being able to specialize, using the proficiencies, or being able to weapon scale and have your preference for your character make sense, that they're going to get better, that because they're a higher level and have used that weapon longer, they obviously should do more damage with it than a first year who just picked up this weapon last week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it doesn't make sense. Just because, yes. Now, granted, if they're lucky enough to get a hit on you, yes, that weapon naturally would do more damage to you. But you're a master. You should be able to very easily do more damage with one hit than they should be able to do with with luck.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my viewpoint on it. And I think that's where we're struggling with this, is if you have the mindset that this is a weapon you're going to pick up, have for a couple fights, and then pick up.
And that might be a more having to do with 5th edition itself rather than this weapon at all.
That this may be
what I mean?
a us approaching it differently with how we do D&D, because if we approach this from the point of view of you're going to pick this up for a specific campaign or for a specific series of gaming sessions, and it's going to fit the scenery and the lore and whatnot, I could understand it. But again, thinking of this as of Kintsugi's weapon, something that was left behind, you want this to be picked up and continued, right? You want this to continue a life. And I just think that if you want to build that relationship, expecting to get this at level 15, I just don't know if there's a huge demand for keeping it. Not saying that you would just get rid of it.
And I think correct me if I'm wrong, Murder Rose, but I think that they mentioned that generally speaking, you get legendary weapons around level 15, or you get +3s specifically around level 15. But I mean, put it this way, like, there are plenty of opportunities for low-level characters to get something way outside of their...
Yeah.
You can fight something way outside. You could find something way outside. Like, so maybe a level 10, like, if you are level 10, say you did get it at level 10 and you start building a relationship with it. Say you've just been using some other BS, uncommon weapon just because it's magical for now, and you've had it and you've been wanting to find something more permanent for your character, and you come across this blade. Could you get it early enough to develop a nice relationship and turn it into something that you kind of just like, it becomes a part of your repertoire, Every warlock's go-to is Eldritch Blasty Blast, but maybe there's a fighter whose go-to is freaking Shatter,
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, so I think depending on how you would go about considering you know, because again, she did say that this is very specific to the DM with DM's discretion
Yes,
a lot.
and I
So
do love that.
I think what it really comes down to is I think you and I are on the consensus that Shatter feels like for later game, it feels a little underwhelming. But at the same time, again, it clears out a minion path. You know, you have a couple minions that could clear a couple of them. Like, it makes sense to crowd control yourself because it's not supposed to be a devastating killing weapon. So you could say that that makes sense. But I feel like what it turns into and what it does when we look at it from the point of view of action economy, I just feel like it needs to be a little bit more useful in later battles. Like, it's a great weapon. I just feel like towards level 20, it needs to have a little bit more use. But you know, that's really it. Otherwise, it's fantastic. I think a lot of it.
I want to be clear because I think there's a lot of times where we can get lost in the details just because there's so much to talk about, you know, when it comes to these things. But I want to make it very clear. I think this is a phenomenal weapon with a beautiful mechanic behind it. There's, again, all kinds of like details and stuff that you can get into, but what this weapon and item is as its core is very cool. And I'm actually, because I really liked, and the cool part about this is it's another weapon from the same character. It's got the same vibe. It's got the broken energy, metal, you know, the gold in between it, like
the shattered aspect.
The heart of it like flows so well with the lore of the character and like how it happened, and I'm curious if there's a different reason why this weapon became a legendary weapon or became what it became versus why the armor set, or if it was just like, hey, this is all of these stuff from this one legendary character, this one legendary individual, and because it came from there, it is now this new beautiful work of art.
Yeah, it's, oh man, it's interesting. What is this? This is a
greatsword.
Greatsword. Weapon. And today's episode. So now you guys can see how we do this behind the scenes. Okay, so in terms of score, yeah, no, I think you said it perfectly. Like, it has a great lore behind it. It has a great descriptor. It's very well balanced physically. Like, its physical form with the reach, the stone.
The abilities balance, how they counterbalance each other.
Yeah, everything works so beautifully. I just think that, for me, when it comes down to it, I think that I would tweak the damage, both the type and the amount of the abilities only. I think that it deserves, because it wasn't mentioned, I think it deserves to do slightly more damage than your average greatsword.
Oh, it's base damage?
Yeah. I think that it would be very, very easy to justify saying it only does bludgeoning instead of greatsword as a slashing.
Yeah.
I think that because of the descriptor,
I think that would be cool. I think
that'd
be a really cool effect.
Yeah, bludgeoning, because you don't have to worry about like slashing damage. So I think bludgeoning damage a little bit more than average, and then, like, you know, the longsword inside could just be like, you know, the slashing and piercing damage. I like the idea that it comes down to a +1 because the stone is basically what's making it more damaging. I like that.
But it's still magical at its core.
Yeah, still magical at its core. I like that when it reforms, it also has extra damage for a whole round while it's like still molten hot. Yeah, I mean, I will say that it doesn't, I mean, I can't use it, so, I mean, we're already losing a point because I can't use it because it's Kintsugi's, and it's, you know, a specific thing. So
but it's beautiful.
So it runs the same fault as the armor. Unfortunately, the armor has already given me the inspiration, so I can't get the point for that. But it does give some really awesome vibes. It does have a lot of great balancing. And again, even when I talk about wanting to restructure the damage, it's not that I think it's wrong. It's that in the ways that I would use it and apply it, it would work better with an adjustment. Again, that's how like the high points work, right? It's not about how good is it, it's how much I would use it. I would have to adjust it because of the way that I would implement it. But when I read it, it's solid. It's a solid weapon as is. Depending on when you give it to the players and what your setting is, that's the choice that you have to make of adjustment, right?
For sure.
I would probably give it to people much earlier and have the damage scale. I think that's how I would like to do it because I like how it's written. And I like the idea of someone keeping a hold of this. You know what I mean? Like, this is not something I want someone to hold on to for a level or two.
I mean, that would be kind of cool. Say if you've had this weapon for like 5 levels, it doubles in damage or something like that, or you know, if you've leveled up with this weapon X amount of time, I don't know.
Like the more,
but that's cool.
The more time
that's
you
very
spend
cool
with it, the more it levels up. Like something like that. But no, so it would lose the 2 points there just because can't really get re-inspired off the same idea, and I can't use it. Other than that, it will lose a point because it does need the adjustments, the damage adjustments, and all of that. It would lose a point for that. But otherwise, there's no other fault, so it's going to get a solid 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. It's a beautiful, beautiful item. I love it. This is very cool.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love it. Hopefully, she's here. If she doesn't, I'll at least at her in chat. Any of the messages that posted before they went live. I saw that you had some your D&D thing, and then your fight at the bar, which was I kind of skim over that one right before we got started. And then your party member ended up being a traitor, which was that's always
rude.
fun when you find out that someone's a traitor.
I'm not gonna lie, I get kind of excited when any sort of twist happens in my game, especially if
when
it's
the
prompted
added in another player.
Especially if it's prompted by another player at the table, and it's so much fun.
But yeah. So 7 out of 10, not bad. I think it's fantastic. It's only going to lose those 3 points for right now because I can't fault it for any other way. Speaking of which, though, we are getting to only an hour and a half today. I guess we're not as talkative, but we did. I think we did.
No, we did a lot.
I think we cleaned up a lot of our
and we're still got to
though.
hit a lot of the stream points that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so I still do have a couple of updates for you guys because one thing I do want to just kind of give you guys a heads up on is just kind of what to expect from us from here on out. There we go. Because I have spent a lot of time during the break just really thinking about what we're going to be doing this year. Obviously we've grown a lot. We've changed quite a bit actually over the last 6 months, over 50 live streams.
Getting our groove. We getting it.
Yeah, and that groove is definitely still ebbing and flowing. We still have a lot of changes coming up, but I have made some final kind of concrete decisions on what we're going to be doing, what you guys can expect. Mostly to give ourselves some more consistency, but as well to help tighten some things up around here so we can get better prepared when we make affiliate and better prepared for when we can start actually making YouTube content.
Which we are very excited for. That'll be very cool.
Because eventually, we want to branch out and we want to allow this content to be, pushed out on YouTube, making YouTube shorts and YouTube videos and everywhere else. I want to, be able to get into that space, but we need to lock in the type of content, the consistency, and we just, I want to get us to a point to where we can pull any video and find good content from that. So some of the, the ideas that I'm going to be bringing to you guys, or at least some of the changes that you might be seeing, hopefully we are going to be seeing a little bit more structure in how we do things. So, you guys do know that as of right now, Mondays, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is Homebrew Review. We're going to be pretty much sticking to that. So we're going to stick with, as best we can, one item, as long as it gets us pretty much, an hour and a half of content is the goal. We are trying to shoot for averaging 2 hours per stream, but no pressure for however long it's going to take us. We will add in maybe doing 2 reviews on a Monday if it's like a very short descriptive item, that only really is just kind of like maybe less than a paragraph. But otherwise, we're going to try to stick to that, and then maybe just do some quick updates like this after the episode and just do some chit chat with you guys before we end. Fridays, we are going to continue doing our like deep dive episodes where we go into more details about things. But one of the changes that we're going to get into is we are going to get more of a schedule built out. So I don't want to necessarily have a guaranteed set list of topics that we're going to talk about and like what days we're going to talk about them. But I would like to be able to post in the Discord and give you guys a list of topics that we've approved that we're going to talk about, because you guys are submitting ideas for us and that we're going to go through. So what I want to do is be able to post that list of upcoming topics and so you guys can get an idea of which ones that you may want to. And then once we know what day we'll talk about that, we might try to do like an actual like schedule where we're maybe 2-3 weeks out and selecting at the topics. So then that way we can kind of be more dynamic with shifting in what we talk about. Other than that, a little bit of changes for the homebrew review, trying to keep ourselves on topic a little bit more. We do want to keep our tangents. That's kind of what we're built around, and I think that's what we kind of are going to get known for is our tangents.
Yeah, we kind of.
But I do recognize that our tangents. Yeah, but I do recognize that sometimes our tangents go off on unrelated notes.
Off topic,
we start to tangent into areas that weren't specific for the homebrew. So we are going to start to tighten that up. We're going to get into more of a rhythm of tangenting off of more specific categories when it comes to the homebrew. So we're still talking about it. We're still giving our viewpoints, but staying more concrete into the topic and being, less bouncy. And then also, being better at our read-throughs, not stopping mid-sentence to make comments.
Sometimes the comments
that will do a little bit better. And yeah, hopefully controlling that will make a better workflow. We have a first-time chatter. Drabs. Sorry.
Drabs?
Takes a second. Drabs, what is up? Do we review classes? Yes. So every Monday we do homebrew review. What we prefer is if we can have a viewer submitted homebrew. It can be anything: items, classes, weapons, subclasses. Pretty much anything that that you would like us to read on stream, discuss how we look, how we think about it, how we might use it, how we might manipulate it. We would absolutely like to do that. And then if we don't have a viewer submitted one, sometimes we'll go on to like D&D Beyond and we'll rate some homebrews there as well. So yeah, absolutely anything that you have, feel free to join the Discord. Actually, thank you so much. You're already on it. Yeah. But yeah, feel free to join the Discord and submit those. That would be fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. If you have interested in your thoughts, our process is pretty simple. Again, we're not here to be authority on any matter. It's more about we have different experiences, so we want to give our reactions and our thoughts based on those experiences, both as players and as DMs. We kind of just break it down. I don't know how long you've been here about it, but yeah, we just break it down each piece, kind of give our knee-jerk reaction, what we're seeing, what our experiences have brought up to it, and give some suggestions on what we might do ourselves if in your shoes. And then at the end, we give it a 1 out of 10 high points. And again, it's not a rating so much as to whether or not it's good or bad. The 1 out of 10 high points is more or less my rating of how much I want to use it. So if it's a 10 out of 10, it basically means I'm taking it, I'm using it, I'm going to implement it. And then I just take points off from that, depending upon, like if I say, hey, it needs a rework, I would do this differently. The more I would have to change it, the more points I take off. And basically that's just kind of, I don't even know why we started doing that. I think it was just random. I think I just did it off the top of my head.
It's what made sense, yeah.
And we just started rolling with it. So it's a kind of a new process. That is another thing that I wanted to talk about this year that you'll be seeing. We're currently actually breaking down the high point process for homebrew review into a like a legible format, like basically a table. So I'll be able to post that in the Discord.
That will be really cool.
I want to post that in the Discord so you guys can actually see like how my point process works, right? Because it always starts out at 10 out of 10, and once I've reviewed it and read it, I kind of wanted to show you guys how I make my points, right? Because you guys know, if I can't use it, or if I just don't want to, or for whatever reason, if it's not going to be used in high point, that's the first point. The second point I knock off is if it doesn't really inspire me to create something or inspire me to build off of it, that's another point. And then I just basically start removing points from, how difficult is it, how complicated, how much do I have to change in order to be able to use it, how useless is it. So I want to write all of these things out so we can make that consistency, right? So when you guys come on to, on Mondays and watch Homebrew Review, I don't want to say, hey, this one's losing a point because of XYZ. And then 5 weeks later be like, this one's gaining a point because of XYZ. And then being like, hey, wait a minute. The mind lost. And I don't want that to happen, because I know sometimes, my ADHD gets the better of me. And in the moment, I'll be thinking one thing. And in a different moment,
it'll come out another.
I'll think something else, but I'll say the same thing. And it won't in context make sense. So I want to avoid that. So I do want to have a very concrete way of how we do the high points. So as we're here on stream, we basically have our own kind of like guidelines of how we're rating these things. And then that way you guys can kind of also join in as well. So yeah, if you have anything to submit, that would be fantastic. We would love to see that. And then and then on Fridays, we are going to start getting more topic ideas in mind. I think next Friday that you are available, whether that's this Friday or whatnot, but when you're available,
I should be available this week.
We are going to talk about that topic that we saved.
Oh yes,
I moved it to the stream. I moved it to the stream topics.
Stream
channel.
topics, okay.
Yeah, but scaling mundane weapons. We definitely, that is probably going to be this Friday's topic, because absolutely I want to get into that. More updates. The Discord. Still working on it. We still have a lot to do with a lot of the channels, the leaderboards, and a lot of the things that we plan to do. That is this year's goal, to get the Discord finalized, get the bots in place that we need to. Right now, we're doing a lot of things manually. So I'm going to be doing manual updates right now on when we go live and just posting that in the Discord to ping you guys. What we will be doing, like the next big thing we want to work on, is Kage is going to be working with some of my mods to get the bot set up. It's probably simpler than I'm making it sound, but it's just time.
Yeah.
Time investment. But basically what we want to do is, if you want a Discord message or a Discord an alert letting you know when we go live, we'll have a special role for that, and then it'll just be like an emote. You just basically reply to it with an emote if you want it, and then unreply the emote if you ever want to not be notified. But we'll get that set up. We're going to get all of the other channels set up. Oh, hey, Drabs finally followed. Thank you so much for being a follower.
Wonderful
Thank you so much. Let us know if you are joining the Discord.
I will go take a look right now, actually.
Yeah, let us know. Yep, he is. If you wouldn't mind taking care of that so he can get access. So, Drabs, we're going to change that up. Perfect. It's just our vet process, so we do appreciate that. If you did your greetings click, that we appreciate that. We'll get you in. He should be getting you your roles, so you'll be able to see all the channels. That's right. This is another thing that we need to work on. There is a current bug that we haven't figured out what's causing it yet. So you will have access to read like 90% of the channels. There's only supposed to be 1 or 2 that you shouldn't see the history of, but there is a bug. Some of the channels aren't showing all of the chat history when you first click on them. So the only fix I know of is, when you go into the channel, if you don't see any chat history, click the pin messages and click on the like any of the pin messages to go in there. That's the only fix I know of right now that should completely show all of the previous message history in any channel that it's missing. We have a ticket out for it. We just haven't figured out what's causing that yet. So bear with us. But yeah, other than that, feel free to look around. Every channel has a pinned message. At bare minimum has one, and it's just like typically a very small few words on what that specific channel is for. So if you're curious, we still have to get all of the FAQs written up and looking nice before we upload them onto that channel. But we'll have a FAQs channel. But every channel will have a pin message that basically just gives you an idea of what's supposed to go there. Hopefully hopefully it's easy. Let me know. We have a suggestions area under stream info. If there's anything you guys want to suggest that we can improve on the stream, improve in the Discord, go ahead and put it there. We have another area for suggestions for topics and, for homebrew review submissions. And then we have areas if you just want to chat with the community. So hopefully it makes sense. Let us know if you have any questions. Definitely let us know if we can make anything better. This year is really all about the main goals this year, outside of like becoming an affiliate and getting the YouTube content started to be edited and put out, is really building the community, right? We want to get the Discord done. We want to start growing the Discord. We want to make it easy for people to come in, understand what's going on.
Make it easy for you guys to talk and develop. I mean, I love the suggestion that we got from Love Murder Rose about just a channel to develop homebrew, even if you're not looking to get it submitted. There's a place where you can just talk about, hey, I really want to make this balanced in this way. Let's talk about how we can go about doing that. And there's just a place for you. You guys can talk with each other about it if you guys have ideas. I know Cosmic's just chock full of suggestions that he wants to give to people about different ways to do things. So I don't know. It's a place that I wish me as a DM that I had when I was first starting to figure it out, because you can just go to me like, hey, what's a good CR for like these kind of monsters or for these kind of players, or what's a good build for this kind of stuff, or just getting ideas from other players and other places. And I think that this
that's what we're trying, and that's what we're trying to do. So kind of like a quick rundown. The stream info section is, again, everything about the stream, right? So you're going to get your updates. If we're going to do events, we'll post them, the schedule, FAQs, blah, blah, blah. The leaderboard is all the stuff. We're going to make updates on the homebrew. So we're going to have leaderboards posted there. Suggestions are what can make our Discord better, what can make the stream better. Topics are what you want to hear us talk about. Questions, these ones are specific to questions that you want us to answer here on stream, right? So if you want us to answer them live, that's where they'll go here. Submissions are homebrew submissions, so if you want us to review them on stream, that's where they go here. Now, if you just want to chat with everybody and you want to say, hey, I have a homebrew review, you don't want us to do a review on it, but you just want to talk to the community, maybe you want Love Murder Rose and Cosmic to give you some ideas, that's where the Misfit Community homebrewing section is. You can just post things here, and this is everyone just chit-chatting about what they've built, and this is a free space to just share, right? We won't necessarily talk about these on stream unless we're requested to, but these are not necessarily like homebrew submissions. And then everything else, you have an artwork one. So anything that you've created, we have a specific area for handmade artwork, people that have done their own. And then we have one where if you get it from AI or online or something, it's just free to kind of post that as well for D&D inspirations. And then I guess the last big one would be DM questions. If you have questions for me and you want to know how I would rule it as a DM, either in High Point, or if you have a D&D question that you don't know the answer to and you want an in-depth answer, you can ask me those questions here. Basically, one question per answer, or one question per post. But yeah, I'll go into as much detail as you want. Typically, what I will do when I answer your questions is I will give you, depending on the type of question, I'll typically give you the rules as written answer. So as D&D would expect it to happen.
Depending on the edition you're playing, obviously.
And yeah, the edition. So based on the question, I will give you the rules as written, the raw answer. Like this, you'll have the raw answer and I'll give you some explanation over it. I'll give you the High Point answer and a little bit of blurb about why it may be different or what I do differently and all of that. And then in a lot of these, I'll also even throw in what I like to call the Crawford ruling. Now, it's not to say that we here, condone or even encourage what Jeremy Crawford says to be right at all times, but it is a reference that I will pull in some questions to help better make the rules as written make more sense, at least in the expectation that D&D has, right? The rules as written. So sometimes if the raw says one thing, but Jeremy Crawford elaborated on it with what the rules were intending, that's why I add the Crawford ruling, just to kind of say this is exactly what they intended. But then I'll still give my High Point explanation. I'll usually quote the page in the book if I can find it, so that way you have the exact sources that I'm using for my answers. And then other times, if you're just having questions on ideas, like most recently, our follower D&D World had some questions about a campaign he's developing. He gave me some ideas about what the base was, and just said, "Hey, do you have any suggestions on this item, or this item?" And I gave him this whole write-up here, just about, a write-up on what he was writing, kind of refamiliarize myself with the characters, the NPCs, and the setting, and then just wrote up what I thought I would do, if I were writing his campaign, and building something along those lines. So, it's something that I really like doing. And if you have any interest in it, any interest in what we say here, in DM questions, you can also ping Kage directly if you're looking for his DM perspective specifically on these. This is typically for me, but again, he is the co-host. So if you have, as you hear more about his universe and his realm, if you have a specific question on how he makes a calling, definitely feel free to ping him in this one, and then he'll answer that question instead of me. But typically, if you post a question in here, you don't have to ping anybody. If you post a question, it'll default to me. I'll be the one to answer. It's not really meant for chat. It's just meant for you post a question, I post an answer, and then we can use the other channels to chit-chat about it. But yeah, he's always available to ask as a DM if you want like something specific for like the Cineverse and how he would do something. But yeah, other than that, everything else is pretty straightforward. Oh, wow. Already day 1 and we already got a submission. That's number 6. So now we still have 5. Even after today's submission, we still have 5 weeks. Thank you so much, Drabs, for your submission. Demonic Wizard subclass for wizards who want to work with friends. Oh, I'm already interested. And just so you know,
like
Drabs, we do not. So when we do a homebrew review, just so you know, we everything is fresh. Basically, we don't pre-read it. We don't pre-take notes. It is a blind reading, so we essentially, you're going to get our fresh reaction without much thought. Granted, there's a caveat to that. We do look at the files. We do vet them. We make sure that, we can read them. We might reformat it into a way that, we can at least read. If for whatever reason it doesn't pop up well on stream, but we don't necessarily look at the details.
There's definitely a difference between like going over it and just seeing what's there versus reading it and absorbing, hey, this is what this is about, and trying to understand it. But just so you know, it is a blind reaction. We do try to think on the spot, because I think we get a lot of our best ideas that way, because if we sit there and thought about it and made bullet points, we'd really only... We'd weed out a lot of the initial stuff that happens. Well, I know for me, what sucks about it is if I pre-write down my ideas, I will be more focused on trying to make sure that I'm getting my idea that I bullet pointed across, instead of letting the ideas actually be creative and thoughtful. Right. I'm trying to describe what my bullet point is more than I'm trying to talk about the idea it represents. And I totally get that. Blind idea, I totally get that. And I like being wrong. Like I know that sounds weird, but I love it when we're sitting there talking and I have a reaction or I have a thought and we get into it and it's like, oh, wait a second, hold on. That doesn't do what we think it does. Mm-hmm. Not because we didn't read far enough, but like if it has an ability and I misthink of the ability, and because we've done that before. We've sat there and we've understood how it works slightly incorrectly. And I like that, because to me that is part of the creative process, because it still brings up new like argument points. And how many times has that happened where it's helped actually make the item better because the arguments actually like reinforced what it actually does. Right. So yeah, different reasons why we do that, but yeah, that's what we'll end up doing. So that's pretty much us. So thankful that you are here on our first stream for 2024. That's definitely fantastic. What else we got going on in chat? Okay, you submitted something right now. Wait, how far back in chat did I go? Put your name on the follower thing. Thank you so much. My head of one time is the 5th in one idea, 5 being the sword, 3 themselves, 1 being the character concept, 1 being a villain concept. Oh geez, yeah. Cosmic has submitted so many. I think he's submitted at least like half of all of the ones we've reviewed so far. I want to say roughly. I mean, I forget. We did count the number earlier, but there's like out of 34, 35 reviews, I think he's like 16, 17. I know it's some ridiculous amount that he's submitted. 14. 14, yeah. So 14 almost out of 30. Almost half. Yeah, yep. Wow.
Awesome. Yep, we did get your submittal. And then Cosmic says, remember seeing the spell in the spell class of the player's handbook, but the spell info itself isn't there. Then I looked through the pages. It simply wasn't there. I'd have to see. Yes. So I have actually seen that before too, where because depending on the edition too, this happened a lot in earlier editions where they would reference something in the player's handbook, but have no descriptor of it, assuming that the DM will have the DM's handbook with the info. So a lot of the times they did that for either the intended purpose to hide it from the player, so the DM had the discretion and had the real notes, or it was just more efficient to make a reference to another book, so you'd go buy another book.
Got you.
But it used to happen a lot more in older editions because it was because usually when you bought like a module, there was a couple, like most modules had like 2 or 3 books that they all shared, like, you know, the player's handbook, the DMG, and like a monster manual. Yeah. So they would all reference those 3. So it's like once you had the core books, I mean, that's where we came up with the idea of core books, right? You have tons of modules and campaigns, but there's always why we call them core books, because every single one of those editions called back to it. But yeah, it does suck when that happens, because you're just like, what am I looking for here? What is this called? Inventorology. Oh, Inventorology. You actually changed your name on Twitch as well. Gotcha.
Wait, what happened?
I wasn't paying attention. Yep. So, can you... We need to go change that, because I think I ended up doing some admin work this weekend, and I changed your name back because I thought something had messed up. So you were D&D World, yes, correct?
Oh, that's who Inventorology is.
Yes.
Okay.
So we are going to...
Perfect.
Did I get that right? Inventorology. Okay, cool.
I think I got Drab set up properly.
Awesome. Perfect. It looks like you did. Excellent. See, that's going to be the hard thing. And we didn't think about people update. I didn't think you could. I mean, I just never thought about updating your name on Twitch. So that's going to be really interesting when people... I mean, I guess if you're a long-time follower, we'll just do this. We'll just know it's you, and we'll just change it on the fly. So I got your name updated in the Discord. Thank you so much. We'll start calling you the right name now, Inventorology. I think it's a little bit better than D&D World 444444444.
What are you talking about? That was perfect. I loved it.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for that. And then, but yeah, so he said, Inventorology said that the Orcus suggestion is probably going to get used, the one that I mentioned.
Oh, yeah?
About with the Raven Queen.
See.
I really
that think was some really cool
Yeah, I was really happy with that idea, because it not only ties into his campaign and the lore that he wants to put into it, right? Like, I mean, he already wanted to do the hunt for the Raven Queen's name, and the fact that D&D already has that lore in there, that Orcus, that's one thing that he's already going after and always has wanted. It was just such a beautiful blend of, like, why not just make him not necessarily the BBEG, but make him the shadowy figure that's controlling the BBEG or the situation, right? Or just the driving factor. There's so many cool ideas. I really... Let us know, please, in homebrewing or one of the channels, just when you kind of concrete some of those ideas, please post those publicly to the chat so we can look at them either in community chat or homebrewing. Just please let us know, because that was so much fun to think about. I mean,
that was beautiful.
Krampus and a Lich working against the Raven Queen, trying to figure out her real name through Santa's Naughty and Nice list, is just such a dope concept. I want to know what you do with it. And thank you so much. I'm glad that you used one of my ideas. Again, guys, like, we're not here to tell you how to play D&D. We're not here to tell you how you should play it or make you feel like you should be playing it like us. Our goal is to get ideas churning, right? I want to give you an idea of what I would do in a High Point. Kage wants to give you an idea of what he would do in Cineverse. And we would love you guys to take those ideas, and we would love to hear that, yes, that's a cool idea, I'm going to use it. But I would be just as happy if you go, no, I don't like that, no, I don't like that, but you know what it does make me think of doing? And then you do that thing. That is exactly the entire goal of this stream, is to just get people to realize that there isn't a wrong way to play D&D. There's always a way to make it work and make it fun. It's just, how do you want to do it? And so I'm glad that you're going to use it. I'm really interested to know how you're going to use it and how you want to implement that. So please let us know. Drebs, when y'all stream again. Okay, so our stream schedule as of right now is every Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and every Monday is Homebrew Review, and then we do just this little chit chat afterwards. And then we also stream every Friday as long as we're in town. I, at bare minimum, stream every Friday at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. Kage will once in a while join me on Fridays if his schedule allows, but pretty much we will both be here on Mondays, and then it's me every Friday, sometimes with him. And Fridays we just do more of a deep dive. We'll take a topic and we'll just have a couple bullet points we want to talk about and just really kind of flesh out an idea. You can see all of our previous streams, so I do simultaneously stream live on Twitch and YouTube. Twitch is the chat that I primarily use, if you guys haven't noticed, but all of our live streams are on YouTube, and everything can be seen at Misfit Gamer Studios Live on YouTube. You can go there. You can see all of our previous ones. They're all properly labeled, so you can see all of our previous topics and see kind of what we've done before. We do kind of reference a lot of the previous topics that we've had before. I mean, 50 streams. There's a lot. And then I also once in a while you'll see on there I also live stream my games on the weekends sometimes if I'm just feeling like I want to chat with people and I'm playing video games. I'll do that as well. But I that's just more of kind of behind the scenes stuff if you want to come hang out with me. But yeah, Mondays and Fridays are the D&D streams. And we will do all that. But yeah, also you can expect in the Discord, we will be posting more updates when we stream, and then we'll be making a specific role if you want those announcements, so you can get up to date with all of that. And then Cosmic says, I do have a really old second level spell that I made years ago, but it never ended up getting used. Hey, man.
Ooh, I would love to see a second level spell created.
Yeah, right? Like, I mean,
because I know
low-level spells just don't get any love. Usually people want to create super massive, awesome spells. I'm like, you know what? Homebrew cantrips can be awesome.
There are a lot of, like, formulas to creating, like, 5th edition spells. But, like, from what I've seen of 2nd edition spells, like, they're kind of unique.
Yeah,
and so I'm curious to see what, like, a created homebrewed spell would look like, balanced out a little bit.
I don't know if it's 2nd edition or just 2nd level.
Oh, is that?
I don't know.
I totally thought he said 2nd edition.
I don't know if he means 2nd edition spell or a 2nd level spell. But yeah, yeah, man. You know where to post it, man. It's in the Discord. Go to the submissions page and just give it to us there. You can either just post it in a message or post a link to the write up. However it works for you guys. If you guys have a D&D Beyond account and you want to write it up and post it on D&D Beyond and just send us the link, we can do that too. The second level, it's a 2nd level spell, Impenetrable Warrior.
Impenetrable Warrior.
That could be interesting.
Okay.
It's like mage armor that fights for you.
Okay. I'm here for it.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it. That's us. That's kind of what we're doing this year. Really, a lot of our goals are going to be just really tightening things up. We're going to hopefully have more of a structure, so things are going to, go a little bit more smooth. As much as we love our tangents, and I don't want to get rid of them. Like, that was one thing I really had to make a decision on, is I love our tangents. We're not a radio show. You know what I mean? Like, we're not, we're not professionals here. We are nerds who like D&D and want to just discuss the various ways that we have come up with playing D&D, the various ideas we've had, and want to get people to understand that, you shouldn't feel bad for wanting to modify it, but you also shouldn't feel bad if what you read in the book is what you think is exactly how it should be played. Like, neither of those reasons is wrong. I wanted to, I've said this before, but I created this stream originally because in my original upbringing, from my parents, but in my original approach to D&D all those years ago, it felt very gatekeeped by people who were very by the book. If you don't have the book, if you don't read the book, if you don't follow the book, then you just can't play this game. And that didn't jive with me very well when I was thinking about this game being about pure imagination and pure fun and and trying to be creative about it. And I never felt creative constantly being at the beck and call of somebody else's rule book, right? I love the foundation, right? It's a great foundation, and I think it lays the groundwork for everything you need, and I don't think it's wrong by any means, but I just feel that, and it's not about the rule of cool, it's just I feel that in a game of imagination, the book doesn't cover everything, and the original, even back from first edition, the DMG even says to take this as foundational and to take this as the beginning, but to modify it and change it and expand it into your own thing. And that's all we're here for, is to reach out to those people who were like me, who felt very put off and who just didn't know where to find their place because they wanted to do something of their own, or they wanted to go against the tide. This is just the place that I wanted to create for that, is that, there's no wrong way to do it. Just because we disagree, Kage and I disagree a lot on how to DM, on how to play, on how to structure a game, what additions are good.
And for me, it's a little less of disagreeing and just more of seeing that what you get out of it may be different than what I get out of it. And though our implementations will diverge, they both have their own unique set of value.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
our rule book is pretty simple. If you're having fun and your players are having fun, like if everyone's having fun, you're not doing it wrong. Like, I don't care if you've never read a D&D book. I don't care if you literally just grabbed pieces of paper, wrote down names and some numbers, and don't even know what you're doing. If everyone's walking away having a good time, you're playing it right. And that's the whole thing here that we're just trying to do, is give people different ideas of how to get excited, right? Homebrew review isn't about telling people how to do it better. We'll never sit here and say, this is what you should have done. We don't sit here and critique. We're not better. Our stuff that we've created isn't better than anybody else's. It's not better than what D&D and Wizards of the Coast have put out. What we have done is nice for us. What we have done is years of progress making something that we enjoy, and we wanted to share it with other people. And we want others to just get out of those ruts. We've all been in the moment of trying to create something and just don't know where else to take it. And sometimes you just need to hear a couple rapid fire ideas to get on a new train of thought. And that's what I want to be. I want to be that space for people to come into and say, hey, I don't agree with this with D&D. And I don't want to be here to be in the one like, yes, you shouldn't disagree with that, or you shouldn't agree with it. I just want to be here to be like, cool, why don't you disagree with it? Well, what makes yours better? Cool. Well, what are the issues that you're coming with? How can we, adapt it? And maybe, the advice can be anything from how to make you look at it differently, all the way down to you just need to game with better people. You just need to game with people more your speed. Yeah. Sometimes the advice that we have isn't that great. It's just, it's what we have. But that's what we're here for. We're here to make people realize that you can have fun with this game in so many different ways. You can't go wrong if you're having fun. And if you're not having fun, then it's either the group or it might be what you're doing. But
if you're not having fun, you recognize it, and there's something you can now do about it. It's to be like, hey, we should change our goal from following the rules to finding what we all enjoy together. Because if following the rules isn't bringing us enjoyment, then we are clearly doing something wrong. You know what I mean?
And then Charles just says, don't be down on the idea of not professionals. Tons of DMs use the work as resume material.
I mean, facts.
Like I've used some of my skill sets. I haven't directly mentioned it, but I mean, yeah, if you're a DM, keep in mind that, you have great time management. You have project management skills. You have the ability to take very complicated ideas and over long periods of time, collaborate various amounts of data through various people's interactions and, recollections of events, and are able to summarize that on a weekly basis for a group of, multi-level. Like, you can say so many different ways of how D&D is actually good for you, because you being a DM, you have a lot of organization and creativity, and definitely you are correct. Don't be down on not being quote unquote professionals. I say not professionals as in, we're not here. I don't work for Wizards of the Coast. I don't make books. I don't make, I'm not Matt Mercer. I'm not, Jeremy Brenner. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a professional. I don't make money doing this. I mean, we're not even affiliated at this point. But with that end, we fully recognize that we are no better than you guys. We're not doing it better than anybody else. I just do it differently. That's all I'm here to really get people to recognize is I do it differently, but I have fun, and so do my players. I'm not saying that makes me a better DM than anybody else. It just means that I found a way to make it fun for me and my players. And if you're not able to do that yet by what other people are telling you how to play, maybe this is the place for you to find out how it's going to be fun for you. That's what I want is if you're not able to have fun playing D&D the way others are telling you how to play it, I want to be the resource that gets you to find your way to have fun. That's probably the easiest way to say it.
Yeah.
Beyond the book is our motto.
Beyond the book.
Beyond the book is really our motto. And again, it's not about, everything that you do should be homebrew, right? You should just throw away the book. And no, beyond the book just means take the book as a foundation, but build from it, right? You don't always have to be the rule of cool about it. But like we were talking about earlier, on the Greatsword. By technicality, you'd probably, by the book, because it's a greatsword, you use the greatsword damage.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, that doesn't quite do the weapon fully justice. I would probably knock it up if a greatsword's a D8, I'd probably make it a D10.
Right.
Because of the description, not because of some rule of cool or because of some situation the player's like, no, it makes more sense right here, right now. To me, it's more of book, that was a great foundation, but you didn't take into account that this isn't a greatsword. So therefore, I go beyond the book to make my own determination of what makes sense in the moment for the game, for the realm, for the player, for me, for the rules. And it's all about balance. And that's what we mean, right? Not everything has to be about homebrewing. Not everything that you add in has to be 100% your creation. But I want to support and encourage people to make those tweaks when it makes sense for your game. Not just to appease somebody, but when you literally just be like, but I would rather do it this way. Then do it that way. That's all I'm here to do is if you say, but I would rather do it this way, but the book says otherwise, I'm here to be like, then do it that other way because you should, because why not?
Now, along with doing it that other way, there's always what I call natural consequences, but people think that consequences is a negative thing. It's not always, right?
It's
just the reaction of whatever the case may be. So there will be certain reactions if you do things a certain way. There will be certain ways people can abuse things or do other things. And as long as you walk into those things eyes open, you have hey, when people try and do this, I'm going to do this, then you don't have to worry about it. You just are aware, hey, this is what I have to play with. This is what I have to work with.
I mean, keep in mind for me, you also have to, we want to support people and realize you're going to get hate, right? For doing it slightly different. I mean, hell, I founded High Point. High Point's primary foundation is in 2nd edition. And 9 times out of 10, people don't even consider wanting to game with me
because it's 2nd edition?
Well, because it's Thaco. That's it. It's purely because of Thaco. You know how
really?
many people
are that scared of Thaco?
You know how many people refuse to game with me because they are so against Thaco? But you also understand High Point. High Point isn't 2nd edition the way 2nd edition
it's not traditional second for sure.
And I add in other aspects of other editions because that's to me how you were what the original intention of editions, right? They weren't replacements. They were advancements.
Yes.
And that's the only
difference. It's like upgrades. It's like DLC.
Yeah. It doesn't replace your hardware. It just adds to it. It gives you more fundamental resources. And that's how I play, right? But that's just it, right? Is I understand that turns a lot of people away. But I'm not butthurt about it. I'm not saying that Thaco is better than anything else. I know why I use Thaco. I know why I prefer Thaco. And I don't sit here and get on my high horse or my soapbox and tell everybody why they're wrong and why my Thaco is better and why. No, I have my personal reasons for using Thaco, and I also know people don't agree with those, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, my players end up having fun. You know what I mean? Most of my active players don't really like Thaco. Like most players, if I asked any of you, objectively, do you like Thaco? Most people don't.
If I had to choose between Thaco and AC, would I choose AC? Probably.
Yeah,
probably.
That's my point. That's my point. But the thing is it's not enough to dissuade you from playing, and it's not like it's oh great, yeah, I got to remember how to use it. No, it's just it's there. Now it's a piece of it, but that's the thing is like most people I think that don't like THAC0 basically were like forced to use it in the most complicated of ways, and it's a fundamental. I just don't like it because it's fundamentally it doesn't make any sense, and it's like that's fine.
You know what?
That's
I kind
fair.
of look at it, and this is just my personal opinion. I might get a lot of hate for this, but I look at it like fries, right? A lot of people, I would prefer McDonald's fries. But I'm definitely going to In-N-Out over McDonald's, even though I don't like their fries.
Like if someone were to
you
be
know
like, "Hey, bro, I got 2 sets of fries. I got a medium from McDonald's, and I got a thing from In-N-Out," and you gave me the choice. Oh, you bet your ass I'm grabbing the McDonald's fries every goddamn time. But if I'm on the road and you say you want to go get some food and you want to get a burger and fries, well, we're going to drive the extra 2 miles to go to the In-N-Out. I'm 100% down with you on that.
Shit, yeah.
Like, but
and additions can be the same way.
Later, man. Probably already gone, but nice to see ya. But yeah, you know what I mean. Like that's just it, right? Like it's that whole thing of there's no right way to do it if you're having fun. Like there's no the only thing that you can be doing wrong is if you're not having fun, or if you're the DM and your players aren't having fun, if you're a player and you're the only one not having fun or other people aren't having fun, like there's always going to be a pain point and something that you can find out. But I
hate communication comes in.
Yeah, I just hate hearing when people stop playing D&D or don't like it or have a misguided understanding of what something is, because not like it's one thing to say, hey, this is what I think it should be. Hey, that's cool. What irks me is when people are like, man, like I just don't like this about D&D, and it's like, well, why? And then you just basically come down to the fact that they have this hard set idea of how something has to work because that's what they were told, and it ruins their experience. That's the hardest part for me, because it's like, because you and I have had those conversations, right? Where it's either their perspective of it is wrong or the application of it, I think
that feels exactly the same to me as when somebody says I hate this song, and when I ask them why, I say because they play it too much on the radio. And I'm like,
so you don't hate the song, you're tired of it. And
so why are you listening to it, bro? Like you could turn it up. You choose what you. Whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. So that's kind of
No, I definitely get you on that.
But yeah, no, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. So yeah, so I think we'll end it there. I think this was great for a first one.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for being in chat, those who are still here. I know we had so many. I know we had Cosmic here, Love Murder Rose, Helia Peppa was here, Adventurology was here. Geez, we had so much. Drabs was here, new follower Drabs.
Man,
thank you so much for joining, and thank you for
starting the new year off right.
When it comes to Homebrew Review, we have a primarily first come, first review, first come, first serve. So it's going to be in chronological order, except if they're like for today, we actually had another item that was technically chronologically submitted before this one today, but its format and some of the details that we saw
we had some questions
a little bit off for us, and we didn't want to get too confused and have an issue on stream. So we might skip
clarification
around
beforehand if necessary, but
yeah, it's usually chronological order, so we will get to that in the next couple weeks. Unfortunately, that just makes it easy and beneficial for everybody. Thanks for all the info. Can't wait for see the streams later. Yeah, I cannot wait to see you in chat. I hope you I hope we see you a lot. Again, Mondays and Fridays. Mondays at 7, Fridays at 7:30. And yes, we do have a Discord. Definitely make sure that you're in there. But that will be us for today. Thank you guys so much. We will be back on Friday. I think you'll be here as well.
Yes, indeed.
So we already have our topic. We will be talking about leveling.
That's going to be a very interesting topic. I'm kind of excited for that.
Because I've not really talked about how I do weapon proficiencies a ton in High Point. So I'm really interested to talk about that. So yeah, that'll be Fridays. Thank you guys so much for joining. It's been a fantastic start to 2024.
Absolutely.
We're going to do as much as we can this year. Again, biggest goals outside of hitting affiliate are going to be really building the community, building up the Discord, and getting just a really just nice active community going where we can just be talking just constantly about this kind of stuff. Because, we are only streaming twice a week. We will have YouTube content coming out, but we really want to do more interaction with you guys. So in the Discord, that's where we really want to just see you guys talking to each other, asking us questions, submitting topics for us to talk about. We really want to see you guys drive this show, right? We're here to give our experience, our ideas, but you guys are really what's going to be behind the driving factor. So if you want to hear us talk about a topic, let us know, because we want to be on the front line of what you guys are interested in. And yeah, it's just one of those things. We have tons of stuff to talk about, but if you guys aren't interested, we're just, you're not going to be
sitting here talking hot air.
Yeah. So let us know what you guys think. We're going to get out of here. Have a great rest of your week. I hope you guys had a fantastic holiday, and we will see you on Friday.
Deuces, my friends.